So Tracey, thank you so much for coming in here. I'm Gabe Rhodes, obviously, Joe Rodriguez from Absolute Home Mortgage. One of the big things we want to talk about today, obviously, real estate, some family stuff. I know that you are definitely interested in talking about, how you're a positive role model for your kids. Kind of biggest thing that we're interested in is, tell us your story. I know you are not from this area originally, but you've been here a while now. But like, how'd you come to beautiful New Jersey?
I've been here so long. I think I could almost call myself a Jersey girl.
Okay.
Almost.
You stop pumping your own gas. You just totally give it up at this point.
That's my favorite thing about living here. I have to say, I am here for it. There's nothing like, I grew up in Oklahoma, and when you run out of gas in the summer and you have to stop and stand there and it's 100, it's not a way to start your day. So I did grow up a very small town in Oklahoma, population 1,200. We had one 4-way stop, 3 convenience stores, and about 5 churches in the town. Not a lot to do, but it was an awesome place to grow up, be a kid. So when I went to college, I graduated, and then I didn't know. I went to an 8-to-5 job, and then I quickly realized that I'm not somebody to sit behind a desk all day. I like to be out and about. So my dad worked for Otis Elevator, and there was an opening at their office in Dallas for outside sales, which at my core, I'm really more of a shy person, so it was a big deal to step out like that. But anyway,
take sales.
I did it, outside sales, and I moved down there by myself and met my husband at the OU Texas football game. He's from Jersey, and he came out there for the game, and so they're, a 3-year long-distance relationship ended up with me living here.
So were you at school at OU?
I wasn't.
Oh, you're just at the game?
No, very much a hardcore Oklahoma football fan, but I went to college at the University of Tulsa for academics, but always a football fan. But I always wanted to be a realtor. And going back as a kid, looking back, I used to draw houses on paper, like design and stuff. I used to think I wanted to be an architect till I realized that all the math that was involved with that. And then I said when I graduated college, I told my mom I wanted to be a realtor, and she goes, I didn't just pay for 4 years of college. You can go do something you don't need a degree for. So fast forward, I got married. Frank had a job, so it was a time to start, and I started my career here.
So when Frank said we're moving back to New Jersey...
Oh, he never left.
Oh, he never left Jersey.
He never left. We flew back and forth between Newark and DFW for 3 years.
Frank's a police officer, right? So, just for the record, he does have hair on his legs, or does not?
So in trouble.
That's another story later.
They're smooth as silk.
But how did he help you? Did he help you at all with?
Frank, I will say, he loves when I say this. I really believe that he is a start to my business, because when you start building a business like you did too, Joe, with your mortgage industry, you kind of have to go with your sphere of influence. It's who do you know 100%. First, like where do you start? And Frank is he's a real hometown guy, well loved in the community, star athlete in high school, all-stater. Came on to be a police officer, PAL coach. I mean, he's done it all. And so he knows a lot of people. And he got me my first client here, a guy from town that he knew from high school. And that just kind of like...
snowballed it.
Yeah, I say it's like a snowball, right? You start small, and when you start going downhill, it gets bigger and bigger. And Frank got me my first deal here.
I mean, I think that's a lot of our real estate industry kind of works that way, right? Is we deal with a lot of new team members coming into our company and just really trying to figure out like how to get started. We actually had one of my newer loan officers on podcast a few weeks ago, and like super intelligent girl, NYU graduate, master's degree. Her family is in the mortgage business, wanted to come in, but like it's difficult to get started, right? You really need that like little bit of a push from your sphere of influence. And being in, I mean, New Jersey's unique in that way, where you get in these communities and everybody knows everybody, and you just become the person for that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, who's the realtor in our sphere, who's the mortgage person in our sphere, and it helps. And
Absolutely.
it's much needed. So when you moved from Oklahoma here, like, was right to being a realtor, or what was your kind of path?
Yeah, so I didn't at first. I went and I took a job like in outside sales, and I got pregnant about 3 months after we got married. So then after I had my daughter, I was going to go the stay-at-home mom route for a while, and I quickly realized I needed something else to do. And I'm like, this is a great time to, and actually it was Frank again. I owe him a lot. I do. He's a guy that said, you've always talked about real estate. Why don't you just do it? Go to school. So when she was 8 months old, I went to school, did it the 2-week, 8 hours a day, got my license, and I got licensed in October, and I had my first sale in March.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how hard was that balancing like the newborn baby type thing?
It's super hard. Well, the good thing about, and my mom came up and stayed with her while I was in school, but they sleep a lot at that time. But that was hard because, well, actually, Abby was a horrible sleeper at night, but trying to study and do it both. But Frank and my mom were great with that. So it, we got it done.
I have 2 girls 18 months apart, and I have plenty of nights that I was like sleeping with my hand in the crib, just like, please don't wake up, please don't wake up.
Do you know, I think every parent has that thought. If we all admit it, we did. Being so tired with that first one, and wondering to yourself at like 3 o'clock in the morning, why did I do this?
Yes.
I still ask that now.
Yeah. It might get worse when I get older.
Especially now, right?
Right.
Yeah, never in the
I don't know
teenage
if Joe
years.
even knows this. My daughter on Monday night at 10:30, even though my only rule is to stay in the backyard, was on a scooter with her cell phone, no shoes on, went over the handlebars, face planted, beautiful teeth that I bought braces for twice, cracked, broken nose. She looks like me. Like, it's not a good look.
That's insane. But the hopefully she's all right. The terrible, like my 5-year-old is a young version of me, and I wasn't like a kind of a maniac of a child. So like a couple days ago, I get a call from camp. My wife got the call from camp, I should say. Like, oh, Ava's using potty words. Like, I'm like, here we go. Like, this is like exactly me. And you know, I think we've talked about this a few times. Like, it just morphs into like other hard things. Like, yeah, when they're a baby, it's hard. You have that moment like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And then you have a lapse in judgment and have a second child at some point. And then it just all, maybe more after that. But like, it just never gets easy. It just gets different. It's like a different type of hard.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at colleges. I mean, my oldest is almost 18, and we made it through the rough spell when she was young teens, and now
So it does get better or no?
Yeah, she's awesome.
Does it ever get
No,
better?
we made it through, weathered the storm, and now I love hanging out with her. But now it comes the next phase where I'm already sad about it because she wants to go away, like Alabama away.
Yeah, like how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? All right, one day at a time. Enjoy the time that's here. I have a whole nother year with her. Because she's going to be a senior. Like, enjoy it. Like, it's going to come no matter what. So enjoy the time that we have here, and let's make some awesome memories while she's still here. And then I want to be excited for her because I know what is on the horizon, and what an amazing experience. I will say it hurts my football heart a little bit that she wants to go to Alabama.
I was just going to say that. How do you trick her? How do you trick her into some Oklahoma colleges?
Apparently, I failed as a parent, not making her a serious football fan.
Just from birth,
Yeah, I failed. I did. Yeah. But I know she's excited, and my husband is going to be real excited to go to the games.
I'm sure get the
love
one of those games.
Yeah, we'll start collecting the gear. I'll probably just wear red to the game, not. I mean, we have to go through that's her number one, but we'll see where else she wants to apply. But right now, it's all definitely a big Southern school. So.
Yeah, I mean, they are fun.
Yeah, yeah,
they are fun.
So getting back to the sphere of influence stuff,
yeah.
That's a big thing that we would always like to talk about, like building your business and like. I know you well, like, and I think you've got a great reputation around town. Like, tell us how you built your business. Like, what's your go-to, like, ethically? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing that people want to know about realtors.
Sure.
Nowadays.
Sure. Yeah, when we were chatting before, Gabe, I had mentioned that I didn't realize how, I guess what a bad, for lack of a better term, a bad reputation, or how low people thought of realtors until some of this NAR stuff came out, and I saw like comments and stuff people were making about as the news was breaking. But I will say that what I'm probably most proud of in my business over the past 18 years is my reputation. It's been very important to me because there are a lot of times in this industry that you can walk a gray line. You could steal a client that's not yours, and that's just, it's not right. And I will say that every day I go home, I'm not proud of the way I handle my business that day. And as such, my business now is mostly repeat and referral. So I don't have to, I'm not hustling for the clients and stuff like I did when I first began. And so that's, I feel, just a testament of how I run my business over the years, that now it kind of comes to me. Yeah. And it's, I'm proud of that.
We're obviously in a related world, right? Mm-hmm. So we realtors and the real estate business on that side is a big part of our like referral sources. And, mm-hmm. We work closely with realtors every day. The mortgage side has a very similar rap, right? Yes, it's like, true. And I really, what it really comes down to is there's professionals in our business that take it that way and take it seriously. And then there's some people that don't.
Right.
Right. And they, unfortunately, I think because of the flexibility in our industries, mm-hmm. it's bred the ability for people to come in and not take it seriously.
Right.
And it's given us all a bad rap. Mm-hmm. I mean, I personally, I still originate. I'm chief operating officer of Absolute, but I still have my license in 15 states. I still originate. I still mm-hmm. am involved in it. And I have a few referral partners that I work with, and mm-hmm. we just have like that mutual respect of each other. Like, they're very professional in the way they do business. They know I'm professional in the way I've turned down clients. I tell them up front, like, hey, this is going to be a tough one. Here's what we're dealing with, right? Mm-hmm. And we have very open conversations. Mm-hmm. A lot of like mortgage professionals haven't taken that route, right. Historically.
Right.
And I think from the real estate side, you're combating that as well.
Yeah.
Right. And I think as we've seen competition change, right? Mm-hmm. Buyer's market, seller's market, mm-hmm. as those cycles go through, it becomes evident as well, right? It's not just like a homeostasis of like buyers and sellers, and it's not like that, right? You just see these discrepancies in how people are treated and how things happen. And I think that's probably what triggered a lot of that NAR lawsuit, mm-hmm. is like pumping the brakes of, the seller's market being what it's been the last 2 years because of inventory, but it's prevalent, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a real thing that people like us are combating constantly.
Yes.
And trying to correct.
Yes. No, I agree.
And I feel like a couple bad people destroy the entire industry. That's
it's always a squeaky wheel, right?
It's weird because like I always say this, like I always assume that adults are functioning members of society and can think and do things right because they're adults. But then you get the fact that there are really some bad people out there that ruin it for everyone.
I've told I've built a very good relationship with all the local realtors. There's some that we all work in the same area. I get along great with them, and it's been important to build a relationship with them, a good working relationship, and some I've even become friends with over the years. But I said, like, we're all on the same team here. I come across a nasty agent. Like, why are you making this so difficult? Like, we all have the same common goal. And as far as like fighting with between clients and how not, I just like, we're all working people, and you work hard for your relationships that you build with your clients, only to have somebody do something underhanded. I've had that happen to me, but at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? they have to live with their conscience. They know what they did.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's on them. Good.
And it's even like not just business to business, but like sometimes you see, you know, how I get referred clients all the time that like, hey, you know, I told this person to reach out to you. They're working with this other guy. Like, can you just see if you can help them? And like a lot of times with that stuff, I really mostly only deal with like my friends and family right now, or somebody that was referred to me from a friend and family. So like when I take some of that stuff, I'll look at it like, hey, no, you're good. You know, he's competitive. I'm not going to say whether I can beat them by an eighth or this.
Right.
Like, he's competitive. Are you getting the best deal you can? Yeah. Like, you know, I'd probably do the same thing. Like, you're
Right.
good.
Yeah,
Right. But
I like what you said before about that, like being able to sleep at night. Like I feel,
it's the way I
bad.
feel about
You know,
it.
my business, you know, the content creation, same thing. Like I feel bad taking. Well, yeah, that's good. That guy does good stuff.
I mean,
it's bad. Like
you guys, you see it too, right? You go to somebody's, hey, we're pricing up a photo shoot for our wedding, and some of the prices are just outrageous. You're like, what are they doing different?
Yeah.
What level of you know, photography costs that much,
I don't know
right?
what they're doing with
But it makes a market, and I think for us to try to get to a point of professionalism amongst your team, amongst your own teammates, amongst others, and just have that like consistency will help change it.
Right.
But it's just difficult to manage, right? It's just difficult to manage that part-time loan officer that is also working at a deli and trying to sell. Like, you get that in our world, and they don't know what they're doing because they're not engrossed in it enough on a daily basis. Because that helps you, right? You're doing it full time.
More than that probably some days.
Obvious, right? It is more than a full-time job.
It is.
For those who think that it's not,
I know.
it's hard.
well, you're running your own business when
Yes.
like, you know, we all do this. You said something funny before, the 8 to 5. I'm like, I wonder what that would be like at 5 o'clock to be able to not have to check email at 10:30, and then you get up at 4:30 and like, did that person email me back? Like,
Right.
it's like, so
Imagine like just like punching a time card and then you leave at 5 and you think about nothing.
or like you could go to your kid's game
Yes,
on a
without
weekend
your
and not have to.
Yes.
Are you, I know a lot of agents classify themselves like, I'm more of a buyer's agent or more of a seller's agent. Where do you find yourself?
So I both, but my business has morphed into more of a seller's agent. I love my buyers. I have a real soft spot for the first time home buyer. I get it a lot of times really like emotionally attached to those that I work with, and you feel like their losses are your loss and their successes are yours. Sometimes I get so excited for them. I have to remember, oh wait, I'm not buying this house, you know? It is my favorite phone call to make. And I even pull my girls in on it sometimes. Like, listen to this, watch how excited they're gonna be when I call to tell them that they got the house. I'll put them on speaker. And it's so fun. I like them to be able to share in that excitement because you're selling house. I'm not saving lives, but man, it's so fun.
This is pretty exciting.
It is. It
get
is
that.
great. Like you're kind of like helping them start the foundation for their life. So that's why I like the first time home buyers, and I feel like they're the best listeners too. Like they'll listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, they take the guidance. I have a few that I've worked with. I have one right now that actually just put an offer in this morning on a product. It's like it's been a year and a half trying. And he's like very well qualified, has a good down payment, but he's playing in a very difficult market, and he's pretty headstrong about like not wanting to overpay for houses and you know, looking in this area and trying to. You're gonna probably overpay for a house, right?
It's better than being homeless.
It's better than being homeless, right? And you know, it just, you get so emotionally attached to it, right? I'm just like, whatever you need, just let me know how I can help. I'm like reaching out to the agents myself, saying, hey, they're very qualified. We've already even underwritten them. Like we're they're good to go. If we can make the numbers work, they're good.
As a listing agent, I love hearing from the lender about that because that's the biggest risk. You know, we all hold our breath until the commitment comes. But I've really, listings is what I love and it's my passion. And I've morphed into more, I would say 70-30 lists to buy. And I love listing property. You know, I mentioned I love homes just in all aspect. I liked when I get a listing that maybe it's one of the center hall colonials that are so common around here from the 70s, right? And I have a file on my phone to show people, look, this is what you can do when it's renovated. We can take out this wall, or you can put in a 9-foot island here. How about some arch doors?
Like your architect stuff from
yes, yeah, right. I like, thanks, Gabe. I've kind of brought it all
Some
together.
entire design.
But they're like, their face lights up. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, because some people can't see potential.
Yep.
I see potential, and I love to try and convey that and help them. And for my sellers, because I can see what the possibilities are. I like to explain it to buyers when they walk in. You know, it's like it just kind of helps bring it all together.
I'm sure that's a lot of what sets you apart too,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of where you found your niche in how you do things. Because I've been to countless open houses and showings, and like you don't always get that feedback from every real estate agent. Like they're not as involved. They're like, here's the bathroom.
Yeah,
great, right?
Too
like,
bad.
yeah.
And then going on the comments like that you were talking about before, like I'm sure there's a lot of comments on that site like realtors do nothing.
Yeah,
like, and there's like that's such a negative connotation. Like,
yeah.
You know, what are some? I'd love to hear some of the funny comments that you heard.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, it's you put a sign in the ground and collect a check. That's what people think you do. Oh, I put a force. The house sells itself. I mean, yeah, you can put a sign in the ground and sell, but you're not going to make as much money.
Yeah.
Like, when you sell your house, don't you make as big a profit as possible? So you need somebody to be able to,
Sure.
get you. This is how I explain it to my sellers. I'm like, okay, we've all had to go to, I don't know, a new dentist or a new doctor, and you hear great things about the doctor, right? You don't mind going, but when you call it to make the appointment, imagine like the receptionist being nasty to you when you're just trying to schedule that. Maybe the doctor's great, but that sets the tone. 100%. Like, right? Don't you have already, right? So I say, I am basically like the receptionist. Like when you list your house with me and somebody calls, I'm going to answer the phone myself. I'm going to be very friendly to them, very informed. And then, or like at an open house, when they step foot through the door, they're going to be greeted by somebody that is, with a smile, friendly to them, and is so excited to show them the house. Like it's a genuine excitement, and that translates to buyers because then they get excited about it. And then that's how one of the things that we do that help builds that top dollar for the seller. But yeah, the comments, some of them I'm not allowed. My mom didn't raise me to talk that way, but it was.
It's like a good Instagram post. You go right to the comments.
Right? We do. That's how we actually see what people are really thinking. But I feel like, I was very surprised to see what the overall vibe is towards real estate in general, and I kind of feel like I'm part of a mission to help change that. Get the word out so you see what
I know
we
in this
do.
area, like definitely, like we live in Florham Park, East Hanover, Madison, Chatham. Like I see your sign everywhere. That's you definitely have that reputation here as being the person that's lively and stuff. How do you keep that energy all the time, especially like in the market like this? Like how do you? Especially like family, like you're running around all the time. Like how do you keep that energy?
You know what, Gabe? Sometimes like I do get really stressed out sometimes. But then I just feel like you just have to laugh. Like sometimes I get so stressed out, I just have to like say, all right, in the grand scheme of my life, when I look back, am I still gonna be bothered by this? And I just try to, I'm not saying I'm successful at it all the time. I just try to categorize like what's really important and what is, because I live a crazy life. I do with, my youngest being in sports and club sports and both in high school and I know a lot of moms are going to agree with this and all the wives, like you try and have this robust career and be at the top of your career professionally. And I'm secretly super competitive. I'm going to be really nice to you about it, but I want to crush you, and whether I'm working out next to you at the gym, whether we're competing in the office for the number one spot, or whether we're just out for, a jog, like it's just in me and I don't love it, but I guess that's kind of what's made me successful.
A little bit of tenacity.
Right?
Right?
You're probably similar like that, Joe.
100%.
Yeah. So it's
In like a very nice,
in a nice
quiet,
way.
you're probably not going to know it, but I'm not going to let you win for sure.
Yeah, like exactly. At the gym, if one of the guys turns over the boxes for box jumps, if he goes higher, then I'm gonna go higher. I may trip and fall, but I'm gonna
Give it a shot.
And what gym do you work out at?
F45.
F45.
Yeah, East Hanover.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like it there.
How do you manage? So the one thing that I commend the real estate agents for is like the weekend mess, right? Because I can work on I work almost every weekend, obviously, but like if it's mostly like from my cell phone. I can be on the beach and do what I need to do, but like you have 3 open houses on a Sunday. How do you kind of find that balance with, because I know some of the real estate agents I work, they have teams, or somebody takes one open house, somebody else takes another, they bring in like juniors, or they're splitting listings. Like, what's your strategy there?
It's take it as it comes. Honestly, I mean, in New Jersey, our market here is a little different in this area where things, actually this year, I've seen it trend back to how it used to be before COVID, where July and August were a little slower. Yeah. We all know where everybody goes here in July and August, right? So, but I really don't plan much with my family. I know I schedule my open houses out and I try to stagger my listings as, prepping them for the market and coming soon so that I can do the open houses myself. I haven't put a team together yet. I'm at that point in my career where it's like, kind of, do I want to go this path with a team, or do I want to stay on my own as an individual agent? But I like things done like I want them. And I feel like if people are going to call Tracey Franco, they're going to hire Tracey Franco, then they don't want me to send a junior agent to show their house. Like, they're hiring me based on the services that I provide.
Sure.
So I always do my own open houses I do the first one myself. Now, for the past 3 years, that's all it's taken. Yes. Yeah. So I haven't run into the case where we need multiples, but I do have a couple of agents that I think fit into my branding really well, my methodology, and the way I like to do business that I do use for second showing sometimes. But it's a day-to-day thing. I live by my calendar. I like to write it out. I am not an iPhone calendar. I write it on a...
I'm the exact opposite. I have to have my own calendar.
I'm just
I've run like 4 calendars, like literally like trying to like sync them all up. And then my wife's adding things to my calendar for the kids. And I'm just like, okay, when Gabe will text me sometimes, be like, hey, can you do this time, or this time? I'm like, Gabe, dude, like, and I'm sending him screenshots of my calendar. Like, I don't care. Just figure out where it fits in. Great. It's a mess.
Yeah. I still like to keep a calendar with a pen.
My wife does too.
Does she? Yeah. I just like to be able to open it.
My wife does that also. We have the big one with all the different colors on it.
Yeah.
It'll get you sick looking at it sometimes. But
I love when I get the question, you didn't look at the calendar? Like,
yes.
Nope.
Yeah. Check first before you ask.
Yes.
And you brought up something very interesting too, because a lot of people deal with this. Your part in the career is the teaming idea. Yeah. Like, I know that personally, I deal with that as well. I know that Joe's got his hand in a million things at his company. It's so difficult, like, to just wrap my head around the teaming idea. Yeah. Like, I know, like, have you like ever sat down and done like a pros and cons on that?
Yeah.
Like, that's because I'm afraid. I know that he says he's COO, but he also does 75 wears 75 other hats.
I'm all about scaling in that way. It's very difficult to identify talent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care anymore what people's experience is. I don't look at resumes. Like, I really just, like, unless I'm hiring for a very particular position and I want to hire somebody who's done that position before and has the experience in it, like, I typically am trying to I've noticed that it doesn't mean anything, right? I've brought people in with 25 years of experience in the exact job that I'm bringing them in, and they come in and they know nothing.
Well, it's a totally different job depending on company to company.
Right.
Yeah.
Real estate, office to office, like, I'm sure it's totally different.
I've just found so much more success in finding people that have like a talent, right? Like, that are just talented individuals that can problem solve, that can pick things up, and like, it's hard to identify in an interview, but I've, fire quickly, lack of, as harsh as it sounds, like you just kind of have to be like, hey, this isn't going to work. Like, and I'll bring people in with a preference that like, hey, first 90 days is an interview basically. Especially if they're trying to work closely, like with me. One other weird thing that I do is if they don't walk fast, no dice.
If they don't walk fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people that walk slowly are not in a hurry to or
like,
efficient. I
it's
agree
like
with that
almost
one.
not. Seriously, it's like it's not perfect. But if somebody like just moseys on along and's like looking around, like I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna work.
So you like interview them, then send them to the water cooler real
Yeah,
quick
just
and watch
like
them?
watch them walk in.
Take a lap?
Because we like have cameras and like see how they walk from, if they could keep up with Erica, who like works in my office and she walks fast. I'm like, if they could keep up with Erica, they'll be all right. Right. So
That's a good point.
It's interesting. I like that.
Somebody told it to me like it had to be 30 years ago. Like I was like a kid and they were like, people who walk faster, they work fast too, or something like that. Like when I was like literally working in high school at some point. And it's like stuck with me and I've never took it seriously. And then like, I don't know, in the last like 10 years, I've always like, I've started becoming like cognitive. I'm like, this might be something to
It does make
this.
sense. It makes sense.
I'm thinking now of the people I know that are successful, how fast do they walk? I think you're onto something too.
That is a smart one.
As rudimentary as it sounds, it's like, I can't, the hiring teams and bringing in teams is to find people that you are aligned with, from like a drive, a desire, the way that they deal with your customers, the way that, the clients and how they're tied in. And like, it takes a certain person, right? They have to treat it like it's theirs.
Yeah.
If you
I
have
think that's
somebody,
a big thing. You have to treat it like it's
if
yours.
somebody comes in and they just want to be like, Tracey's employee, no dice, right? They have to come, like, I will bring them in and be like, you're training for my job. Figure out how to take my job from me in all aspects of it, please. And that tends to give them a little bit of a different mindset. Some people take it and run with it, some people don't. And if you don't, then you're going to just do a specific task and that's what you're going to be good at, great, but that's all you're gonna do. If you wanna work for 3 different companies and be as dynamic as humanly possible and learn a ton for you to be successful, not everything I do is right, and learn how to pick up when you do things wrong and, make these little micro decisions all day, let's roll.
Well, I feel like if I was to put together a team for a realtor to be a team lead, the type that you need, because we have hunters and we have gatherers, right? You need gatherers.
Yes.
So your team lead would be the hunter, but it's a fine line with getting the right personality of somebody that never wants to be a hunter, because you don't want them to take your brand and then from your brand build their own, because you are putting them face to face with your contacts and your sphere, right? So it just makes it more of a challenge to find someone that just wants to stay in a certain, not just, but like that's where they see their role.
That's when you have a task to fill,
Yes.
right? You're saying like, hey, I just need somebody that operates great in this very specific environment, right? And then you can hire for that, right? You're hiring for a job description, but when I'm looking for somebody to be my like right hand,
That's true.
total different story, right? Like, I want to be able to go on vacation and them do everything that I do and be confident in, hey, nobody can replace Joe, right? They can try. They're not going to. But secretly, like, I hope they can.
Right.
Well, you said it right. Like, you got to treat it like it's yours. I know that, like, for you, it's got like going to be tough if you do decide to go into that. Like, the treating it like it's yours. Like, treat your, for your $500,000 loan. And I don't know if there's anything less than that nowadays in New Jersey. But like, I know you have some high end clients, and then you have your, I don't want to use the word lower end, but if the lower ones, you got to treat them exactly the same. You need your people to treat them the same, which is tough for them. In all of our businesses, because we're working on on the commission side of things, especially when you're client facing. I think that's such a big thing to treat your little guys the same as you treat your biggest client ever.
Yeah,
So.
and your little guys usually end up being repeat clients too.
Right.
And your best referral sources.
And your best referral source, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, like, so, you know, on the referral end of stuff, like I was talking to her about this before, like a lot of people, like I know me personally, like I guess I did have a starter home before I moved to Florham Park. I guess it was, 13 years ago. On the listing side of things, I've always wondered, like, going off your comment things, and I don't want you to yell at me for this, but I really want you to answer this. Like,
Okay.
what do you do? You're other than being the receptionist, which I like that metaphor, simile, whichever one it is. For someone like me, that if I wanted to sell in New Jersey right now, like what? Because I don't know a lot about that. Like,
Right.
what type of stuff do you do for your clients?
So I think, the main thing when you're hiring a listing agent, I always recommend people shop local. You want to get a top producer in your local market, because right now pricing is very, very important. I tell my sellers the only mistake you can make right now is to overprice your house. So if you price your house at or just a hair below what current market value is, that's how we get these multiple offers. So your local, and that might not be the same up in Bergen County or Passaic, but right here in our little bubble, that's what's going on. So your local agent is going to bring the value of being your market expert. But where we take it a step further, where the agent plays in to getting top dollar, is staging, beautiful pictures. Everything starts with great photography. You might know something about that, Gabe. Yeah. So it's about having beautiful pictures. It's the additional services that you could provide. Are you going to do Matterport for the virtual tours? Is your agent up on all the other tools that are out there with the QR codes and the exposure? Your agent, you're with a great company. Like I work with Coldwell Banker, and the technology that we have to broadcast our listings to get mass exposure on our home is huge. And the more exposure that you have for a new listing, the more eyes you have on it, the more excitement builds, the more people are going to show up to see it and are going to show up to your open house, the more people are going to write an offer, which equals a higher dollar for the seller. So exposure is key, but that all begins with great pictures and great marketing to start with. And then you get into what do we do after the contract is signed, for recommendations for attorneys that I know are going to have their best interest, a great home inspector. I have all these other resources, but then we manage the transaction from that, because a lot, when you do by owner or you have an agent that's not experienced or savvy, home inspection can become a really big issue. So your realtor needs to know how to negotiate those and work through those issues with you to keep the transaction together.
You stay local with all those as well, or?
I do. I really like all my local people. I trust them. We've worked together for years. And we know there's great people around here.
And what type of any technology? I'm not trying to sell any absolute stuff here, but maybe I am.
Yeah.
But what type of technology do you guys use after the contract signed?
So,
have you been exposed to any other ones?
So I feel there's always stuff coming out, like new ones, and I'd love to hear. I believe Absolute has some new.
I actually own a company called Mortgage Automation Technologies, and my partner and I developed like a point of sale software for the mortgage industry, but we also morphed it into an entire like real estate point of sale as well for the real estate industry, for the real estate agents, right? Ability to manage open houses, manage listings, like things like that through it. So there's a bunch of cool stuff that we can do now that this stuff wasn't available.
Right.
And some of it is actually in response to the NAR lawsuit and what's happening, an anticipation of some regulation that I think would probably come out of that eventually. Whether or not it happens, we'll see. But there's the technology industry for the real estate side, whether it's mortgage or the agent side, is definitely, it's been stagnant, I think, for a few years. Yeah. And there's some cool stuff coming out, and we're certainly trying to be on the forefront of a lot of that. But I get as I'm like thinking through it, how much of that is actually are you seeing from the your listing side where buyers are coming directly into the listing because, hey, Coldwell Banker has great reach. It's doing a lot of advertising. Maybe they're not working with a buyer's agent, or with a lot of this new stuff, they're not willing to sign a buyer agency agreement, right? And we're going to see that become more prevalent, I think, now, right? Especially in the next couple of months.
August 17th.
August 17th, right? In New York, I think, is a little bit after that. So we're starting to see some of that come around. What role do you think the seller now plays? Is it a bigger role? Is it muted somewhat? Or do we think that the selling agents are going to start taking a little bit more initiative there?
As far as with the
buyers, yeah.
I still think that it's important. I get asked this question a lot from my sellers because I have some listings coming up and they want to say, oh, what if I list after the lawsuit? I don't have to pay commission, right? And it's always been negotiable.
Sure.
Since forever. It's just now that it's public, they don't, I can sell my house for just pay my seller's agent. It's interesting. Like, it's a very fluid situation, how this is all going to play out. But my personal opinion is I still think it's beneficial for the seller to
represent it.
Do just as they've always done. Like, you want a savvy buyer's agent on the other side because that's going to help facilitate and keep the transaction together.
Yeah.
And that's as this rolls out, that's still going to be my recommendation to my sellers. Are they going to take my advice? I hope so, but some will, and some are probably going to push back. And at the end of the day, it's their decision. But I think it definitely behooves them to keep doing things as we have, because if you get an agent on the other side that's working for a very little amount or nothing, probably not that season, might not know exactly how to do things, what they're doing, and that's where the problems can come in.
I think that's going to be the biggest problem on the buyer side. Like, you're just going to get people that have no idea what they're doing.
I think a lot of it does then. So if you have a buyer come in, right, and they found the house online, they show up to your open house, now you're in some sort of representation of both sides, right? It falls on the selling agent now to try to handle it, right? The hard part for me is similar, right? Is like I guess payment wise, it gets muted by the NAR lawsuit a bit, right? Of how that happens, but like, they're still not being represented, right? There's still an issue of representation there.
Yeah, if different.
I don't, in our area, we're in a little bit of a bubble. I don't think buyers are going to have an issue either paying directly for some level of fee, right, to be represented, or sellers being involved in that in some capacity, right? I think we're somewhat isolated. The issue where I see is, like, in certain markets where you have an FHA buyer that's putting down 3.5% that can't afford to pay a buyer's agent out of their side, right? Now it's going to be on the seller to either help foot that bill, right? Or, in my opinion, like, I think it's a detriment to the listing. It's less exposure, right? I find it both ways. Like, I find my partner and I argue about this a lot.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard to see what pans out about it. What I continue to say is it's nothing right now until there's regulation. A civil lawsuit, can scare some people and can tell some companies to make, policy and procedure changes just to not put themselves in, financial harm's way. But does some sort of regulatory body need to step in and say, hey, this is actually how this needs to be handled? And then that'll put some clarity around it.
Yeah, it's interesting. As like I said, it's evolving right now. So we have a meeting in our office about it next week. With just keeping up with it, and Coldwell Banker has done an amazing job keeping all the agents informed, showing us like what the buyer contracts are going to look like. But just from a realtor standpoint, you compete all the time for sellers, but now buyers were they were filled in the gap, and you we never had buyer agency agreements signed before because you had a relationship. And yes, it's going to offer us some protection. And I told you what just happened to me last week, so maybe that would have been avoided if we would have had it. But it's another level of competition. And what I'm thinking is, how do I frame myself as a buyer's agent? Do I want to go after buyers? Do I want to compete in that, with that right now? Because I was thinking, okay, what would I charge to be a buyer's agent? But I'm experienced. I win. I know what terms you need to put in. I know what clauses win. Yeah, well, yeah, we're going to win.
It's kind of like an attorney thing for me, right? I mean, from the mortgage side, we don't have anything that ties them into us, right? We're working with somebody. We could work with them for months or years or whatever. They can walk away at any point. They can, tell us to take a hike and just go to the next person. And by the way, like sometimes it happens, a week and a half before closing, and you've done a ton of work and we've put thousands of dollars into the transaction, but their local bank offered them an eighth less and they are just, have no recourse. So, it really becomes a heavy competition market, and you're putting a lot into that. I think that's what's going to happen to the buyers to an extent, right? Is they're going to be in a position to form a relationship and make really have that buy-in. Hey, I don't want to say it's like a morality thing, but like it's just us working together, and if I keep doing my job, you keep doing yours, and we're in the same, we're in the same boat.
Morality, I kind of like that, because I know you deal with it all the time, right? Like you work for, especially now, you must work with people for like months and months and months, go see countless things, and then they go to some open house, like meet some seller's agent. They're like, bye, here's a fruit basket. Thanks for from Gary's.
Not even a fruit basket.
Maybe not even get a fruit basket, but like how do you deal with that? That must.
It stings, and it's happened, and it happened to me recently on a $4 million house. Yeah, it was a huge commission, and it just happened. They went under contract July 4th after working with them back from February. So still getting over that one.
Listen, I've had a few that.
Still getting over it.
Did you go to the gym that day and work out?
I hit my PRs that day. Yes. It's amazing.
I've had a few that I've like really just scratched my head of like, how much work. I had one recently that the seller's agent knew me really well and accepted the offer over somebody else's because it was me on the other side of the transaction, right? And she was comfortable with my approval. She was just like, hey, I work with Joe all the time. We're good, right? I think this is probably going to be better than Joe Schmo from this company.
Right.
And he ended up walking, and she called me. She's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't even know. Oh. Like, I don't even, it wasn't like, it was a rate thing. And the guy just shopped me, and I was like, he didn't even really give me an opportunity to match it or anything. It was just, something that was like a weird situation where he decided that his local bank was going to give him a better deal, right? And that's where he had his money, and he was okay with it. And, who am I to hold him back? Yeah. I just said, hey, I would love the opportunity to match. He goes, no, we have all my money there, I have this, that. There are situations like that come up because, hey, some, guy was well off, made a large deposit into a bank. They gave him a really good deal, right? And I probably wouldn't have been able to match it anyway. So, hey, do what you got to do. But yeah, those hurt, right? Those are like how, months and months of, pre-approving, coaching, phone calls of trying to keep everybody happy and, hey, it's okay, you lost it, we'll get the next one. Right?
Yeah, and this one in particular, it was an international reload. So I drove them around in the car for hours, narrowing down different communities in New Jersey that I thought would be a great fit. And then we settled between two, and we drove to the community there, ended up purchasing in, and school was letting out, and I saw her face light up when she saw all the kids walking. I'm like, this is it. You need to live in, this seems to be the perfect fit for you. You can see it in their eyes, kind of like when somebody walks into a house, their eyes will light up, and that's the one for them. And after showing them every house on the market, they go to an open house and decide to increase their budget by $1 million and win under contract in 2 days.
So I guess in that scenario though, like why would somebody cut you out of that, right? Like why would they go direct? I guess they went directly to the seller, the selling agent.
Yeah, no, actually an agent they were working with on a rental they were going to do, because we were going to do a rental as a backup because they were leaving the country again. So they're like, we have this rental. It was a by owner rental. She ended up being an agent renting her house. And I said, that's awesome. You know, now you don't have to pay a rental commission and you have a place for a year. So when you come back here, your kids are going to be enrolled in school. And when you come back, it's going to be September, more inventory. We'll start pounding the pavement again. And your house is going to come up. I keep saying you don't have to settle. You don't have to settle. But this is what it goes back to, I think, respecting agency among agents. You know, she should have been turned back to me when they realized you want to drag her to that house again. I believed the right thing to do was her to be turned back to me when she decided to go for this. But that is not what happened.
Yeah, we one of our products at the technology company is like an open house check-in. That people like QR code in and they could check into the open house. And like we've specifically put questions in there like, hey, are you working with a mortgage agent? Are you looking for a second opinion on it? Are you working with a real estate agent? Great, who is it, right? So like everybody stays informed. And because there is so much, I don't call it, like there's a lot of that gray area that does happen in our world that is unfortunate, right? Like people should have some respect for each other and things come around. That's for sure.
Something like that happens in other industries. The person goes to jail.
Yeah, right.
Jail time. Like 5 to 7. like it's like.
Wish that was the way here.
We're super regulated on the banking side with like literally everything is like a disclosure for this or that or kind of like it's insane. I think the real estate agent's probably just lacking a little bit. You know, it's a little far further behind from a regulation standpoint, and it probably needs a little bit of that control over it to discourage, those practices.
Yeah, it's a shame and that's just something else. Like I feel like in this industry, although I love it, it's taxing on you because you're always fighting. Yeah, you always have to watch your back, and that's the reason. Like I love this area that we live in. Like I know all the agents here, and no one's going to do that to you. I don't, for the most part, no one's going to do that. But it's actually ongoing. We're kind of we're going back and forth over referral fee now for my 6-month buyers versus her 4-day buyers. Yeah, what she's going to give me, and started out at 10%. Yeah, which was pretty insulting. Yeah. But she said if I have any more referrals to send her way, that she would honor a higher amount. And I'm like, okay. Do you think I'm sending you any referrals?
It's tough. It's like
this is it.
I don't know. I think that we're in an interesting time where a lot of real estate agents and mortgage professionals as well have kind of gotten pushed out because of the way the market is, right? And there's some that are probably just holding on for dear life.
Absolutely.
And that's causing a little bit of like these like desperation moves. We're at our company, like we're very like good about flushing a lot of that out. Like we're just keeping people on that are professionals that have done it for a long time, that are like really even if they're new, but they're treating it professionally. We've also taken a way different. Like I've consulted for almost 15 years now for like different companies, and they know like, hey, Joe runs this mortgage company, but like I have full access to their systems. Like I'm fully like they come to me for stuff, and it's like a very just mutual like, hey, we're sharing information. I have friends that own other companies that call me and like, hey, what are you doing with this, right? And I'm like, hey, I'll send you the document I'm using, right? And same thing, we turn around and I have that conversation with them. So we've taken a very different approach to it because the industry needs it, right? The industry needs collaboration to get to the next level, because the isolation of individuals trying to do it their way and only doing it that has caused a lot of decisiveness amongst companies, how things are happening, and then just all that gray matter that shouldn't be there. Right. So we're doing a lot in terms of trying to the CEO of our company, he's like president of the New Jersey MBA, like very involved. And we're just like, we do a lot around trying to create these round tables and bring everybody to the table and have those conversations around, hey, how do we collaborate effectively and put some guidance around that?
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, it's hard though, very hard.
I think the collaboration through the industry is really important. But
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to talk about today, or how about any of your local people? Like, what are you want to talk a little bit about your local team?
Oh, that I refer business to? So my home inspector, who Sword, Florida Post, right? I like to refer him. He's great. He very thorough. Sometimes your buyers don't want to use your referral, so they'll hire their own home inspector. And for a 4,000 square foot home, the guy will be in and out in like an hour and a half. I'm just going, that was not a good inspection.
Yeah, you know right away.
So Doug is great. I have about 5 attorneys I use on a rotating basis, but my go-to is always Joe Filippone with Cimino and Filippone. He's strictly a real estate attorney, which I think is very important in this business. Yeah. You can't have your uncle's brother's cousin who is a divorce attorney, but he's going to do your real estate closing. I don't really recommend that. Yeah. So you want like somebody that just lives and breathes real estate. And then I like I've learned New Jersey talk. I got a guy, so I feel like I got a guy for everything now. So plumbers, electricians, a wood floor guy, like whatever my clients need, I got a guy.
You do have a guy.
Yeah. And I think real estate agents become that person.
Yes.
Like, especially for people that have transplanted to an area, you build that relationship and you're like trying to help them and like introduce them to schools and like, hey, by the way, you better register your kid for kindergarten. It's like up to, it's been,
I had somebody buy in East Hanover this summer. It was my listing, but the buyer kept calling me because she knew I was a local expert. So I had her get her kid set up for team and reminded her of the date. And I think that is important as a realtor. Like, our relationship isn't over at the closing table. No. And I love when I get calls, Tracey, who's that guy you recommended to change the lights or something? Yeah. I love that. I like that people feel comfortable to call me after, because it's nice to have a referral instead of just Googling somebody.
So it is nice to have a guy.
Yeah,
have someone that's got a guy.
Yeah. And if I don't have him, I'll find him. I know somebody that does. Definitely. Right? So you can be resourceful.
Yeah. I've more recently started working a lot more locally. Like I'm licensed in a bunch of states, and we're everywhere. From the mortgage side, at least, we're everywhere from like Maine down to Florida, and then we go a little bit west, as well. But I've never I've always been kind of all over the place with like my referrals, but more recently I'm finding my clients to be more local, and it's been fun because you can relate. Like I have a client that like bought a house around the corner from me, and I'm just like, hey, I'll stop by, walking the dog, I'll stop by and say hi, so it's always good to keep.
Usually when I close, I'll I'm like, all right, well, see you at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes, exactly.
See you at Dunkin' Donuts, or getting a sandwich at Mara's or something, right? We all go to the same places.
Yeah,
so
Mara's is good.
I've
never been there.
Oh
you drive by it it's on Ridgedale on the way home from work. Got to try it out.
Yeah,
definitely.
Solid meatballs there. Good cutlets.
Now
we're talking my podcast.
Yeah. I love their eggplant. Like, they shaves it really thin. It's delicious, and their bread's from Sorrento's, right?
Sorrento's, yeah.
Yeah. So
how's Oklahoma food?
I will. So if you want,
because I feel like we're food spoiled here.
Yes. So I do. The food is great here, but if you want a steak, I grew up eating like a lot of fried foods. Yeah. So everything. My mom is an amazing cook. Like fried meat, mashed potatoes, and gravy, and like real gravy, not Italian gravy, of course. And then, but it was meat and potatoes. Everything is heavier out there. It's so good.
I've traveled a lot around the States. I worked for a software company for a few years, and a mortgage software company, and was like doing implementations. I traveled pretty much everywhere. I don't think I've been to Oklahoma yet.
No,
that was the one place that I didn't land.
It's very pretty. It's I'm from the northern part of the state, northeastern Oklahoma, and it's pretty. But like if you go down towards Oklahoma City, like in the middle, I heard somebody say it's the place you can watch your dog run away for about 3 miles. Like it's what people think of flat, tumble.
I have a client now in Oklahoma for the software company that I talk to them all the time, and with the dog stuff, we have like two. I do some like police and protection dog stuff, and one of the departments in Oklahoma has bought some stuff from us. Those guys send me pictures all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a rough area. I forget the town. Yeah. But yeah,
I've probably been there.
Yeah.
It was an awesome place to grow up. But one of my favorite about the gravy, so my mom, to make gravy, she would fry the chicken, and then like the little pieces of gristle or fat, right? It would be in the cast iron skillet, and she would scrape it off like with and then she would pour like mill knot or evaporated milk in it with like butter and salt and scrape it. So my husband was visiting me the first time in Oklahoma, and he saw my mom with this process, and he turned white. He was like, but he didn't want to be rude. He knew that, if somebody offers you something, you have to eat it. It was so funny. And then he didn't know what my mom was going to do with it. So then when she had this potatoes.
I'll eat that in a second.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Frank?
And then
It sounds so good. I was like, I'm going to try this
it's
later.
It's so good. And then she starts putting it on the potatoes. Frank he was looking at me and looking at her. And then my dad has this big garden. They had green onions. So then my mom takes a bite of the mashed potatoes and takes a bite of the green onion. And I think Frank checked out that. He's like, what am I doing here?
I'm in for that. I was actually going to say, next time your mom comes, can I come over?
She's such a good cook. Like her cream style corn is just, I don't like to share it. And I have her make me more and I leave it in the freezer. It's just good. I didn't say we grew up eating very healthy, but we were very well fed.
Comfort food.
It was comfort. When I met Frank, he was, I'd met him a couple weeks prior, and he was eating, and I could hear him chewing on the phone. I'm just like, oh, what are you eating? He goes, I'm eating macaroni and gravy. I go, what? And I'm thinking like the only pasta I ever ate was macaroni and cheese. So like the little macaronis. I'm thinking my mom's, white gravy. And I'm like, that's disgusting. Like, who would eat that? He goes, what are you talking about? What do you eat?
That's such an Italian thing.
Yeah,
like,
we still laugh.
We get it all the time. Like I still find myself like when I talk to someone, I'm just trying to like correct myself because like I say gravy because I'm half Italian. Like we just grew up around it,
right?
And like I'll be talking like tomato sauce, not like the gravy you think.
Yeah, I can't switch to saying gravy. I say sauce. It just doesn't come out. I can't do it.
I forget which one's right to say.
What is it?
I forget which one's right to like say.
I think doesn't it depend on where like your family's from in Italy, like what region they came from?
I don't know. I mean, it's always been like a Sunday gravy, right? Like it's actually like a term. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not like culturally like.
I'm not.
Same. Yeah.
I'm so New Jersey Italian that it's like.
When people ask me where my family's from in Italy, I'm like Ironbound section. We're Ironbound.
Yeah, we're a few really generations. We're a few generations removed.
Yeah, I think like our grandparents and stuff were born in Newark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ironbound Italian, Ironbound.
Yeah.
My mom was into genealogy for several years and actually traced my ancestors. Apparently, I have like 3, I don't know how many grades you have to go back, but great-great-grandfathers buried in Newark or Elizabeth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they were here. I told Frank, like, I think I might be more Jersey than you are. Yeah, my
I'm
family was here.
I'm so afraid to do the ancestry stuff. Like, like all of a sudden we're gonna have like people show up like the murderers. Like, I'm just like, that's a bad idea. Like once you start, our Italian side is like very big. Like it just exponentially multiplies. Like it's like all right, our generation, and then all of a sudden, like,
I have no idea.
Yeah, like somebody had like 7 kids, and then before that they had like 8. Like it just exponentially multiplies, and I'm just like, there's definitely skeletons back there somewhere.
Have you done your, I did it. It's really fascinating. Yeah, it's really, I mean, I have like 3,000 cousins or something, but it sends them to you. You have new relatives, but it breaks them down by how much shared DNA. And the most I have is my second cousin is on there, and we share like 5.4 or something. Yeah. But it's really interesting.
Do you ever like reach out to people?
They they have to have gotten it done to go
Yes.
through that?
So yeah, I think there's 2 different companies that do it. I wish there was just one, because you might have family that did the other one or vice versa. But yeah, they have to be in the system as well. But it breaks down, like, you know, in the pie chart, how much of you are from, and then it breaks down what region of that country you're from. It's really fascinating.
You know, it's nuts. The like the FBI and stuff uses that now as like part of their DNA database. I'm just like, if we ever did it, like somebody's gonna get arrested.
That's what my family is like. You gave the government your DNA, Tracey. You're done.
One of our like great uncles will call us and be like, "You stupid! Why'd you give DNA?"
Yeah, I know. I was so curious to see what I am, because everybody. I was asked that a lot. Oh, what are you? When I moved here, because everybody kind of knows, you know, you're Italian, Irish around here. So I was curious to find out. So now I know.
What
are you?
Oh, everything white and ashy, if you can't tell. Like 90% English and German, which I'm not surprised. Yeah. And like 2% Portuguese. I can't figure that out. And then, but it's fascinating though.
That is a little crazy.
I don't know. I mean, my dad is first generation. He immigrated here when he was like 7 or 8, but most of my dad's side is like Spanish from Spain, like northern Spain. Yeah. So there's probably some like Portuguese, and you know, that's like a weird area up there. And then our mother's side has to be pretty mixed up.
Yeah, I don't know what that's.
Yeah,
you get like 100 something cousins in this
that's
area.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
It's a big family.
It's huge. So
I love that.
I met my cousin a couple weeks ago at like a golf outing. I'm like, his name's Anthony Giordano, 30, and I'm like, "Hey, cousin." He's like my second cousin. Give him a hug.
Really?
He's my age. We never met before. So
What?
yeah, so
That's wild.
I feel like that's a podcast, Gabe.
yeah, that is.
You should get all your cousins together.
Oh, we don't have enough space in here.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah, that's really.
No, this was awesome, Tracey. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it, and you know, good luck to you on everything.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to see some local realtors that are really trying to push the industry forward. I think that's huge.
Yeah,
we need more of it.
Keep chugging along.
Yeah.
Same to you.
Yeah.